Hello, I'm Jacob. You're watching the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. Today, we're going to do what hopefully will be a quick discussion to wrap up the Battle of the Middleweight choppers. If you're not familiar with the series, right up above here, I will put a link to those videos, but essentially, I tried controlling the variables, comparing the SE Hunglis 2, the Becker BK9, and the Shadowtec Python, three very similar in general dimensions knives that were built quite a bit differently. So in chopping through these 2x4s, you get a good data point for chopping performance, but other stuff is left out. Comfort, weight, fine tasks, etc. And that's what we're going to talk about today. On my way down here, I'm carrying all of this gear in the Hidden Woodsman Day Ruck. Love this pack. Got 64 ounces of water, 3 big knives, and my tripod. So I reckon we'll get right to it. So my goal with this video is to just give you some very straightforward and to what degree I can quick information. We're going to talk about these knives, their performance balance in order that they competed in from first to last in their chopping capabilities. So the first knife that we're going to talk about here is the SE Hunglis 2. This is as the knife comes in stock form, except I have added SE brand orange scales. So these usually come on the original Hunglis, but you can get them straight from them. They're the same basic geometry and everything as the factory scales, and I like them quite well. And I did strip the blade. Now, if you haven't seen this channel before, the SE Hunglis before, I have actually broken this exact model of knife in the past, and I'll put a link to that up there. But what I learned in that experience is that this knife is essentially indestructible when it comes to using human strength. You need a great amount of mechanical advantage or leverage to do something that would break these knives, as he's very consistent with their quality. That's a lot of what you're paying for. They have such a good warranty, no questions asked lifetime warranty, because they know their consistency is there. Knife to knife to knife, they can be of very good quality. This won the chopping competition. It is a few ounces heavier than the Becker. It is also slightly more expensive than the Becker, but that cost difference, I believe, is made up for with the nicer Kydex sheath that is American made. And so the Hunglis 2 is a knife that you can buy and take out to the adventure immediately, and it's ready to go. That's a little bit of where the price difference is as well. So while it won the chopping competition, how did it do? Does it do for fine work? Well, it does great. All of these knives were sharp when we started. The amount of work that we did should not dull a knife, and for the most part, I would say it didn't dull hardly at all. It's just a phenomenal blade. It's certainly, this blade, the SE Hunglis and Hunglis 2 are legendary. No questions asked. In second place, and by the way, the Hunglis 2 and the BK9 are very similar in performance when it came to this chopping competition. All right, and this knife is often called the king for its balance of chopping performance, fine task capabilities, comfort, and price. Designed by Ethan Becker, made by K-Bar. It's all in all a very good knife. Now, again, if you've already watched the series, then in the first video you've already seen the weight and price comparisons. So the Becker is very affordable. It's the most affordable knife here, and sometimes you can find them for about 80 bucks, which is really cool. 1095 Crovan, and although it did not win this competition, it came close to winning while being the lightest knife, a few ounces lighter than the Hungles 2, and the most affordable knife. So all in all, it's just a good blade. Again, still sharp, and for fine tasks, it's wonderful. Another cool thing, what can be a cool thing about the Beckers is the community behind them. Modifying them is very, very common. If you want to do something with your knife, you can probably find someone else who already has. A lot of people will grind off this thumb ramp, reshape the clip, strip the blade, thin the blade, all manner of things. Now, what I'll say in favor of the Becker BK9 is that in stock form, the handle scales are the most comfortable. With that being said, and they're almost indestructible. People still complain about them because they feel like they're cheap. This Grivory material is incredibly tough, but it's got a great texture that's not going to create hot spots, and it's very affordable. It's a nice deal, but if you prefer my Carter or G10, you want to probably go with the Hungles 2. So as far as fine tasks, it really comes down to preference. The Hungles is a tougher knife. In fact, it's going to be next to impossible to show it, but I realized while sharpening at one point that I have a little bit of damage on this blade in a place that makes no sense, and I've never done anything that I believe warranted damage on this blade. And for that reason, I have nowhere near the confidence in this BK9 that I do in the Hungles 2. With that being said, since it is already damaged, I think we will go ahead and destroy this knife and see really how it compares to the Hungles 2. And that will be a very interesting data point. In last place for chopping performance is the Shadowtec Python, and it has a few pluses and minuses that make it extremely unique in this comparison. First off, the Kydex sheaths that they come with are completely custom. Shadowtec's a much smaller shop. The SE sheaths are certainly top notch. I would say for retention and quality, they are a bit nicer than this Shadowtec sheath. But again, this Shadowtec sheath is really cool and really versatile, besides the fact that America. So the knife is the only knife in this category that is 1/4 of an inch thick. So it is chunky, thick, 2 C's, 2 K's. It is also, the other two knives are 1095 and 1095 Crovan, very similar steels. This knife is in 8670. It is a 70 series high carbon steel, and so it's not supposed to hold an edge quite as well, but it is supposed to be much tougher. And so while this knife is, and being 1/4 inch thick and a little heavier than the other knives, the blade is also a little bit shorter, so it's at somewhat of a leverage disadvantage. That kind of would have been taken away if this did not exist and you could choke down on the handle a little bit further. I'll talk about that in just a moment. This knife is also the only knife that is hollow ground. It is relatively thick in its grind. So while the other knives offer an incredible performance to cost value, the Shadowtec Python's a little bit more expensive and did not quite perform as well when it came to direct chopping. But that's not to say that it's an inferior blade. The fact that this is 8670 and this edge is somewhat thick should make this edge nearly indestructible. But if you were to destroy part of this edge, the shallow grind and the amount of full thickness meat behind the grind and the fact that it's 8670 means that this knife should be essentially even more indestructible than the SE Hunglis 2. We will do a destruction test with this blade, and to be honest, I feel like chances are I'll probably end up giving up trying to destroy this knife. It is a straight up beast. Now, what I wish for this challenge is that it did not have this pinky guard here. That would allow them to do a few things. For one, they could reshape this handle a bit so a person could grab all the way to the bottom of the handle and have a true two-position handle with a little bit more room and a little bit more leverage. That could have made all of the difference, or at least a large difference, in this chopping competition, but also it would make chopping a lot more comfortable. This quickly beat up my pinky. It is quickly very uncomfortable. So I did message Shadowtec and I asked them if customers wanted to order this knife without the pinky guard, would they be able to? And they said yes. So that is something to consider. If you like the profile of this knife and the style of this knife and what this knife represents, you might want to consider picking it up without this pinky guard. It's a very exciting blade. It's a very brutal blade, and it is a little bit quirky. And I do feel confident that Shadowtec is the type of company that can continue to move this design forward and make it very effective. So it's cool and it's fun. Now, I will be doing more videos of this knife. We will be doing more fine work and fine tasks. The other two knives I've already reviewed and done videos on. You already know most likely that they can do fine tasks very well. They're both incredibly versatile. But on this one, the reviewing will continue. Well, on all of them, the reviewing will continue, but this one especially because this brings something different to the table. Very exciting stuff from a small company up in Ohio. So that's what I got for you guys today. Man, this was a fun series. I will be bringing more knives to the table of destruction very soon to include the Hunglis versus the Hunglis 2 to see how much chopping performance you actually lose when you lose that little bit of blade length. It's a topic of common discussion and common misinformation, in my opinion and experience. And I also have a couple of blades to directly compare to the Big Daddy Hunglis. So when we do the next chopping showdown, we will see how the SE Hunglis stacks up when compared against other knives and if it performs in its category as well as the Hunglis 2. I am certainly very excited to find out. All in all, at the end of the day, SE has continued to surprise me, and all of their stuff is so utilitarian. It's just a pleasure to see. That's going to be it for today, though. I hope that you all have a blessed day. I appreciate you watching. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs down, because that is better than a thumbs up for YouTube analytics somehow. And share it with your friends, especially if you guys find yourselves looking for large camping style knives that are certainly smaller than a machete but larger than a normal knife, and you are probably comparing knives like this. All right, talk to you guys soon.